Hi, everyone, and welcome to our LinkedIn Live event, a conversation with CPAs. We're excited to have you here with us today, and we'll be discussing successful career and leadership traits, attributes of a profitable firm, and career burnout. Today, we'll be taking questions from our audience members throughout the event, so please feel free to use the comment box and share your thoughts and questions. So once again, thanks for joining us today, and we hope you enjoyed the conversation. Today, we have with us two top-notch CPAs, and you'll get to meet them in a minute. First, I am Arume Hayes, host of the event, founder and CEO of Hayes CPA, a New York City certified women and minority-owned business. I'm also a board member with the New York State Society of CPAs and chair of the AICPA Practice Companies Practice Section Executive Committee, and I am a regional vice president with NABA Inc. A fun fact about myself, I love to run, and I ran and I completed the 2010 New York City Marathon. And this year, a few months ago, during tax season, 1 month after the busy tax season, I completed the Brooklyn Half Marathon. So now, let's get to meet our guests. Tracy Golden, CPA, CGMA, and William Piroli, CPA, CFF, PFS, CGMA. Tracy, could you give us a brief intro, please?
Sure. Hello, everyone. I'm happy to be here with you. I am Tracy Golden. I'm a retired Deloitte partner, so I spent 36 years at Deloitte. I'm also the past chairman of the Association of International Certified Professional Accountants and past chair of the AICPA, the American Institute of CPAs. I currently also serve as the president of the foundation of the AICPA Foundation, providing scholarships to those who are becoming CPAs. And I think a fun fact about me, I was debating between two, but I'm going to go with this one. During the summer, I garden a little bit. I have box gardens and I grow herbs with which I make cocktails.
I love that. I used to garden, and I've not been able to find as much time as I would love to spend in my garden to do some gardening. Bill.
Hi, everyone. It's great to be here. It's good to see you all. Let's see. My career. I'm recently retired myself after 43 years in public accounting. I spent about 30 of those years in a small local firm, about 6 people. And then I merged up into a firm that's about 100 people right now. I am the past co-chair of the Association of International Certified Professional Accountants and the past chair of the American Institute of CPAs. And Tracy Golden was my chair. I was vice chair to Tracy. So Tracy and I have spent an awful lot of time together. Unfortunately, most of it virtual, as we are the COVID chair and vice chair. Let's see, fun fact about me, Arumi, I hate to run. But I do love to garden and as well. And during COVID, COVID turned me into my grandfather. So I dug up my entire backyard and I have a massive shade garden back there that every once in a while I think, why did I do this? This is a lot of work, but I love spending time out there.
Lovely, great. It's nice to be out in nature sometimes, and I think of it as also being very therapeutic. So let's talk about accounting. Talk about how did you get into accounting, Tracy?
Okay, well, when I first started college, I went to Georgetown and I started in the College of Arts and Science, which does not, in fact, have a business program. And so I spent my first year because my goal was to be the president of the United States at that time when I was in high school. But then I was in Washington and decided, no, that's probably not what I want to do. And I looked at the business school at Georgetown and transferred into the business school. When I did that, I looked at all the majors and I said, well, the one that is the most versatile, the most flexible, and will provide me the best background is accounting. So I picked accounting out of that. I had no real role models in accounting in my family or anything, but when I looked at all of the opportunities, I said, that's the one that I think will take me the farthest. And I think I would say that it has.
Nice. Thank you. Yep. Interesting. Yep. I just love the profession. And Bill, how did you get into it?
Well, I grew up in a very entrepreneurial household. My father owned his own floor covering business that my brother still runs to this day, 60 plus years later. And my mom worked in her family's restaurant business. It was an amazing place. It was a huge banquet hall and restaurant. So I didn't know what I wanted to do, but I clearly knew that I didn't want to do either one of those things. But today I do love to cook. So restaurant must be in my bones somewhere. So I went to the local community college, and I was actually inspired into the profession by one of my professors, a gentleman by the name of Jack Renza, and it's been awesome. I've had the chance to show Jack off, and I highlighted him in the Journal of Accountancy, and he's an incredible teacher, and he inspired so many people into this profession. But that's how I got there.
That's great. That's one thing about educators. They do inspire a new generation of CPAs. That's the same exact thing happened to me, Bill. When I was, I knew I wanted to do accounting, but I did not know I wanted to go pursue my CPA. But one of my professors in college, Greg Cicero, I got to intern for him, and it really inspired me. And another professor, Stephen Maxey. So between both of them, I was really inspired, and I was like, this is what I want to do. Let's go all the way. So I know you, both of you, you've really had very, very successful careers, and you've done a lot of things. So you obviously did not get there overnight, right? Before you retired. Can you share maybe some of the challenges and obstacles that you encountered during your journey, and then how did you overcome your challenges? Bill, do you want to go first?
Sure. I can't honestly say that there were any challenges for me. I fell in love with being an accountant in a small firm and representing people that I felt were just like my mom and my dad, right? Local entrepreneurs and their families. Um, I, I I don't see. I never saw any challenges to what I did. I only saw opportunities and um, representing families, sometimes into the third generation, was something that really inspired me and kept me going through the whole thing. I would say probably the biggest challenge that I had was when I merged my firm, and we went from maybe 6 people to 70 people overnight, and I became an equity partner in that firm, and that was a new challenge for me, and how to operate in that kind of an ecosystem where we were in a small firm and it was more like family. So that was probably the biggest challenge that I had along the way.
Yeah, I can say I'll say that's a huge challenge going from 6 to 70. That is, but obviously you had a team around you, and you guys were able to navigate the transition and all of that, right?
Yeah, it wasn't easy. Everything you knew before, you can't use anymore, and you have to learn how to work in large teams and in a larger organization. And Tracy knows that all too well, coming from Deloitte. I wasn't used to the organizational structure. We got to do whatever we wanted to do every single day. So it was difficult, but it proved to be very helpful to me as my career continued that in that direction.
Great. What about you, Tracy?
So maybe similarly, which is kind of interesting, about the time that I was becoming a manager with Deloitte Haskins and Sells, that was the merger of Deloitte and Touche when it became Deloitte and Touche originally. And I would say that I was fully wanting to be a partner and doing all of the things that I needed to do at that point. But then to have an office that became, in essence, three times the size that it was when I was in it, meant that there were a whole new group of people that I had to, become more familiar with and work with in order to get the support to become a partner. I had a very good mentor and sponsor who was there with me, but I had to really take ownership of my career at that point and say, okay, what am I going to do? Am I going to jump in and try to do jobs and work with the new partners that had just joined, in the merger? And so that's what I did, and that was sort of the first big challenge was, okay, now I got a whole new set of people, and jumped right into that. that led to some really good friendships over the years and also to some additional supporters. And so it was about looking at that challenge that came and creating the opportunities from that challenge, I think, that continue to move the career ahead.
So this is great because so I'll just piggyback off it. So those were challenges, and did you see some risky opportunities? Were there during that time of between for both of you during that transition? Were there times that you thought maybe going down this route, this is a really risky project or opportunity that I don't want to go? Is it better for me to go the safe route? How do you navigate when such a situation arises? And what would you say to for CPS to seize opportunities instead of shying away from the risk?
I'll start, Bill, and then you can jump in if that's okay.
Yeah.
I would say that, it really is about taking that step forward. Make sure you have knowledge of what you're, going to be jumping into. But it really was at that point, and then at other points, I pursued an SEC professional accounting fellowship at about the time that I would have been getting close to making partner. That I thought, well, let me give that a try, but and was successful at doing that. And then I just think that the many things that'll happen will seem like a risk, but are really just an opportunity in disguise, if you will, and really taking making the effort and owning what you want to do is what it's all about, because it's what gives you the happiness and makes you the most fulfilled, that will also make you the most successful, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Bill?
I think for me, the risks were around the people that I had with me, my 6-person firm. They didn't sign up to be part of a larger firm. They signed up to be in a small local firm. But we just seized on the opportunity that was there. We knew that being in a larger environment would give me more opportunities to service my client, but it would also personally give me an opportunity to do the things I really wanted to do and not the things I had to do every day. As you well know, in a small firm, you wear every hat every day. And I just wanted to, represent my clients in a particular way, doing particular services. And being in a larger firm allowed me to do that. It allowed me to pick and choose the things that I really wanted to do.
And Arumi, if I can just add on to that,
Yes.
a risk and a challenge and opportunity that I faced a little later in my career. I had just had my son, and so I had been a partner for a few years by then, and the firm came to me and said, "We'd really like you to consider going into M&A," and I was like, "My son is 3 weeks old. I don't think I want to get on the road and start traveling in M&A."
Yeah.
So it was a risk, though, to say no, right? Because that's a great opportunity at a firm like Deloitte.
Yes.
So I reached out to some of my mentors and supporters, and I talked with them, and I figured out that the best way to say no, but I wanted to say no, and I did. And that led to some great new different things that I probably never would have been able to do had I, just gone in and said, okay, M&A. And I don't know where I would be, because I may have had to travel too much and been, not as home, not as available for my son. And I definitely wanted to do that as well. So I took the opportunity to say no, and it's about saying no to the right things and in the right way, I think.
Yeah, and this is why it's really important for us to have mentors and sponsors, right? So that help us navigate some of these challenges and opportunities. Talking about your son, I know he's now in college. I don't know if he's graduated. Did you ever try to talk him into becoming an accountant or a CPA? I read something that he was a volunteer firefighter. He doesn't want to have any part of it, or what?
So for many, many years, he wanted to have no part of it. That's true. Now he is a little more open to the idea. He has not graduated yet, but he is doing an internship this summer with a firm. And so that's interesting, because for very many years, because both my husband and I are CPAs and are accountants, really was not interested because, that was what he heard all the time at home.
Yeah.
And so now he's doing things his way in that, in what he's pursuing, but he is pursuing the capability to be a CPA and so forth. So we're very proud of that.
Awesome. Yeah. And I have to say, I used to listen to once in a while, and I didn't get a chance to listen to a lot of it when your husband was is chair of FASB. I used to listen to some of their live, because they have some of the meetings that they was made available to the public, and I would log on sometimes and listen to it. So great job. So thank him for his service as well to the profession. Bill, let me come back to you. I know you said you've worked with the number of team members that you work with. You've had, you went from a team of 6 to 70. I was listening to a Journal of Accountancy podcast this weekend when I was out running. And one of the things that the guest was talking about was the feedback that high achievers, one thing they always complain about is that they don't get enough feedback from their higher ups, from their managers, or because people feel that they're really good and they're able to achieve on their own and they don't lead. Whereas with somebody who's struggling, they might get feedback. This is what you need to work on. What do we say to high achievers, or what would you say to encourage them, to tell them that, yeah, you're doing great, instead of just saying pat on the back, you're doing great, but maybe, give them some additional insights or advice? What do you think about that, Bill?
Well, I think getting up with evaluations from your team is really important. To your point, you do kind of get into a bubble, right? And you work with, sure, there's 70 people in the firm, but as a partner in the firm, you probably only work with a dozen of them, right? On a direct day-to-day basis. And it's really important to get upward feedback from them. You may think everything is going well with them, but they may want more of you, or they may want a different part of you. So I always try to sit with everybody that I work with and really try to understand what was going to make them successful and how I could contribute to that.
Yeah, and Tracy, the other part of this is also the other complaints from folks, high achievers, is that they also get piled. They're the ones they go to person every time there's a new project or there's a deadline, because they know that they're going to achieve and they're going to meet that deadline. What would you say, to firms that have been operated that way, either to the manager or to the team members who's under stress, under duress that way?
Yeah, I think it is on both sides, Orome. So it's for the managers, I would say that you have to be cognizant that your high achievers are the ones that you want to have around for a long time as well. You'd like to have everybody, that you've brought in and brought on board and invested in to stay and to achieve the same way. But in order to do that, you have to remember that you have to give the others opportunities as well. Because if you shortchange others with opportunities, then you may never know that you actually have a star that just didn't get the opportunity to be on the right kind of assignment. So make sure that you're varying your assignments. To those who are high achievers, remember that it is, when you're thinking about the projects that you're working on and the assignments that you're given, if there is a time when it's appropriate for you to say, hey, you know what, I have a lot on my plate right now. I think maybe let's see if we can figure out a different way to do this. Maybe offer up as a high achiever someone that you're familiar with that might be a little lighter than you, but might also be a very high achiever in the making, and then offer to help them and become their mentor or their sponsor as they go forward, because it really is about everybody achieving together and creating more and more high achievers rather than just having the one or two.
I love that. Yes, it's about being that collaborative spirit and pulling somebody else along with you, right? Don't just get to the top and keep achieving it. You want to keep it all, but help somebody else achieve as well. Become a high achiever. That's great. Thanks for sharing that. Tracy, let me stay with you for a minute. I know, and I'm glad that I think you're still in remission, right? I know you're a cancer survivor. So talking about high achievers and doing a lot of work, what advice would you give to professionals who are struggling with the long hours, they're working long hours, there are really a lot of extreme demands on them from the profession, you're you know, I mean, I imagine you're doing a lot more now in life now that you're retired than you used to do. Like, what would you say to folks about taking time to enjoy life while they're still working, instead of waiting until after retirement before they really begin to see life, so to say?
So I'm a two-time breast cancer survivor, and I am still clean, so that's good. And I would say that if you're going through anything like that, whether with your family or yourself, remember to reach out to people that are within your network, because your network can be very supportive for you. They can help you to determine what's the best way for you to go through it. As coworkers, just ask, how can I help? Is there anything I can do? Be there just to listen for somebody who might need to just talk about the experience, for example, and those kinds of things. If you're looking at, everyone it has both their home life and their work life. It is what it is. I don't like to think of it as a balance, because I don't think it really, it always balances exactly. So it's, how do you fit everything in that you want to do? And how do you make it all work together? Sometimes you have to lean a little more one way and a little more the other way. I mean, you have to do those things that make sense for you, and work with your teams. Nowadays, I think that we have much more flexibility in how we work, where we work, and what hours we're doing those things. And so if there are things that you like to do, if there's a league that you want to be part of, and it happens at 4:30 on every Tuesday, and it's a 4:30 to 6 kind of thing, whatever, then work it in if that's something you really want to do. I will say that in retirement, I am, one of my new hobbies is pickleball. So I hope not to get so crazed about it as others are, but I do love it so far. So that's been fun. But, enjoy your children, enjoy your families, enjoy the elder parents that you might be taking care of. But, and remember that at the same time, the self-care aspect is so important. Because if you don't do the self-care and you don't find things early, you might not be able to be as fortunate as I am and be, a two-time survivor, for example. And it's really important to take care of yourself during all of that as well.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that, and we're glad to hear that. Bill, what do you have something to add to this about burnout in the profession and things that folks should be doing to take care of themselves more in the moment versus waiting?
Yeah, I agree with Tracy wholeheartedly. I was raised in the profession by two workaholics. And when I got into a leadership position in my small firm and began to run the firm, I refused to do it that way. I was raised in a family along with my wife, and I just very carefully selected the clients I wanted to represent. I tried not to be all things to all people, and I really tried to separate my personal life from my work life, so that I would have space in both. Okay, you can't really separate them, to Tracy's point. I mean, they do go together, but I valued my personal time, and I would always look at something and say, what would I rather be doing than doing this? And I'd rather be home with my kids, or I'd rather be out golfing or doing whatever. And I really closely monitored and managed my time so that I would not be the person that was there 80, 90 hours a week, which I see so often out there. It's totally unnecessary. You have to take control of your practice.
Yeah,
Correct.
I agree with that totally. You have to take control. This is your career, it's your life, and how you do your work, and when you do your work and where are all important aspects. And it doesn't mean that you can always work remotely. It absolutely doesn't. I mean, sorry, but there are times, if you have clients and you're in professional services, there are going to be meetings, there are going to be expectations. There's going to be teaming that needs to happen, and collaborations that need to happen, that happen best in person. And that's okay. And as you look at some of this, some of the opportunities that are out there, to me, it's really about making sure that you don't burn out by taking your vacation. Firms and companies want you to take your vacation. They really do. They've added more of it, but people still aren't taking it. So it's become a cultural thing with us here. But we really need to start, all getting away and taking the time to unplug and doing those things so that your batteries don't wear down. We all have this we only have so much, and if it's gone too early, then you get that burnout sensation. So definitely take care. Do some things. Read if you love reading. Run if you love running. Play golf. Pickleball.
Yeah. Yeah, that's where that, yeah, I love what you say, Tracy, but it's where that's, like you said, a lot of folks are not taking advantage of the opportunities that is being offered by the firms. I hear of firms, of companies offering unlimited PTO, unlimited time off, unlimited sick pay, and all of this stuff. But what I'm beginning to hear a lot now, I don't know if you guys hear this on social media, a lot of, I know not every accountant or CPA is out on social media. Not everybody, expresses themselves on social media. But the loud voices on social media seem to hamper down about, they really hammer down on the burnout in the profession. And I think a lot of this negative talk, they talk about the working 70, 80, 90, I don't know, 100 hours in the profession. I think this can harm our efforts to build a pipeline, right? So what do you think the profession can do differently to showcase the value and the diverse, career opportunities that are available to young people, and then also change in addition to trying to combat that narrative about long excessive hours, also change the public perception that CPAs are simply number crunchers or tax preparers? I know that's a mouthful, but Bill, you want to go?
Yeah, yeah, age-old problem, right? We've been talking about this for a very long time, perception, and I think it comes down to grassroots. It's people like me and Tracy and a lot of other folks being out there. You, Rumi, just what is it really? I think, to your point, there's a lot of noise about people working a tremendous amount of hours. Look, I never worked any harder than all my clients work. You can't make it seem like accounting is the only profession in the world where you work hard. Of course, yes, you do. You have to work hard, but I don't know where all these stories come from. I'm not sure that any firm would have anybody left in there if they had people working 90 hours a week. I mean, so I don't know how much of it is true. Sure, maybe there's 2 weeks where you work 90 hours a week, but that's not the norm. And the norm in our profession is, I'll just say we're pretty blessed. We work with really smart people in great environments, with great tools and wonderful clients. So I think that's the story that needs to come out, not how many hours we spend doing that. So I don't know. I've been fighting this for 30 plus years in my volunteer career and trying to change that perception, because it's been very good to almost everyone in this profession has become very successful at it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I think we have been talking about it for a long time. I worked, obviously for a very large firm for a long, long time, and I can't say that I didn't have a time period or two that I was very busy and I was working a lot of hours. But it wasn't the 36 years of my career. And I assure you, I know I would not have made it 36 years working 80 hours a week. That would have been untenable. And are there times when your clients, need something that may take, more time? Yes. Are there also times when you should be taking advantage of your PTO, of your time off, and getting away? Absolutely. And I think that I do think, Rumi, to your point, the loud voices that are on, the social media are perhaps individuals who are feeling a disgruntlement over something else as well that is happening in their career or in their life. And unfortunately, I think that when you look at social media, if we had more positivity on social media, I'm not sure it gets read. So I'm like,
That's true. Folks like all of that, the
right, the
loud
drama.
red stuff,
Yeah,
right? Drama.
yes, yes. And so I think we just need to keep telling the stories. I think we need to keep telling the stories that are Bill and me and you and what we do. I mean, you run. You don't run while you're in the middle of a meeting at a business. You run because it's something you like to do. All of us have great stories about the times that we did work hard and we had a very great success with one of our clients because we helped somebody achieve something that they really wanted to as well. So we have passion for doing that, and that's when we we'll put in that extra time, I think, and when we should. And of course, as you come up through your career, you're working hard because that's how you get ahead. And it doesn't mean that you work all the time. It means you work smart. You do things where you're passionate about them, and therefore they're fun for you and they're good outcomes for you. And so I think we need to be telling more of those stories because I think that's what's not coming out there.
Yeah, I agree. And I think I'll write. I've been trying to find time to write an article on this, but I haven't had the time. But during tax season, I actually took 2 weeks off and I went to Asia. I visited 3 countries: Thailand, Laos, and South Korea. And this was immediately after the March 15th deadline and before the start of, I just took 2 weeks off in between that and the individual, the 4/15 deadline. And folks say, how did you do that? Because I planned, work like crazy, you make it happen. And I had a plan in place and I had my team in place. And I knew that, we would be able to keep on operating and continue to meet the deadlines and whatnot. And so it's like, yes, when I come back, before I left, I worked like crazy. When I came back, I worked like crazy. But it's like you have that time in between to do things that can rejuvenate you so that you can continue to serve your clients. And let me come to you, Bill, talking about serving the clients. We love to serve our clients, right? We're trusted advisors, but we also want to be profitable, right? We want to have a profitable firm. So can you, I attended your session at Engage, which I really, really enjoyed on profitability. Can you speak to us about firm profitability? Maybe, there were, obviously we cannot fit 1 hour of your presentation here, but maybe share with us some of your the top 3 billing myths, and then also share some tips on how we can move a firm's profitability from good to great.
Yeah. If I had to sum it up, and we said it earlier, it's really about taking control of your practice, right? And running your business like a business, and stop trying to be all things to all people, and really being purposeful on the business side of your accounting firm. We're all good accountants, right? That's a given, but not everybody is really that great at running their business. So it's about paying attention to details, doing things purposefully, and don't fall into the normal traps. Billing myths. My clients are complaining my bills are too high. All clients are fee sensitive. That's not the point. The point is communicating with your clients and having the right crop of clients, the people that you really want to service. So I spend a lot of time with a lot of firms teaching them how to prune the tree, eliminate unprofitable clients, eliminate problem clients, really focus their efforts, especially smaller firms, in doing less, right? But really going deep in a particular area, and that'll really drive repetition. And repetition is efficiency, and efficiency is profit. And big firms have done this forever, and I think small firms sometimes get into the trap of, I have to service that person. They knocked on my door. I really need to help them, whether they fit or not in your firm. And as your firm grows, some clients just simply don't fit anymore. So it's really about taking control and taking charge of your own practice and running it more like a business than a hobby.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. As a big firm, we had a practice every year of sitting down and looking at the profitability of each client and also at the risk of each client and whether those two were aligned. And we had in essence, you have to decide which clients you're no longer going to serve, which ones are you going to target to become, a new professional services provider for, and then grow your business in the best way that you can so that you have the right risks. And I'll give you another good example from my peer review days. Dabblers of, somebody who just gets in and audits a one-off or a one or two of the same kind of company or the same kind of entity generally have more problems with those audits because that's not what they do as their book of business. So be careful when you're doing those kinds of things. Make the right decisions for your firm, and I think that helps profitability a lot.
Yeah. And we're in a time where we're in incredible demand.
Mm-hmm.
Incredible demand. I haven't met a practitioner in the last 3 years that tells me they have more work than they can handle, right? It's part of the people problem. So why would you hang on to clients that just don't fit anymore when you have so much untapped business and opportunity waiting for you that's of a better quality? So to me, it's about that. It's about focusing your efforts in your practice.
I love that. Yeah, I think that's what I'm doing a lot more of that now, getting rid of problem clients. When my firm, I went past the 5-year mark, so I'm out of that danger zone. But when I started, I took in everyone that came in through the door. But now I'm able to take my time and really do my analysis and see if they're a good fit for my firm before I say yes. And, for the problem clients, I now have no problems, letting them go. Previously, I would be like, oh, well, they're contributing a lot to my revenue. I really can't afford to say goodbye. But for the first time this past in December, I sent out a billing letter of increase of revenue, billing to the clients, and some of them said, fine, your fees are now too high for me, I can't come back. I'm like, okay, fine, that's okay. We'll see you, good luck. Let me know if you need anything, if your new CPA needs something. But previous I would have been like, oh, that's okay, just pay me what you want to pay me, and we'll keep on servicing you. But let's talk about the CPAs. We know we have to be lifelong learners, right? Where this is something that we're constantly trying to upskill our knowledge and stay on top of new tax laws and regulations. What kind of advice would you give to aspiring CPAs who are still navigating their education journey, and they're seeking to develop the skills that are necessary for them to succeed in this profession? So we know they have to have the technical skills. What other skills do you think they need to develop for them to be successful in the career, in this profession?
Go ahead, Tracy.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll start then. So I think it's critical for people to focus on making good judgments and learning how to make judgments in accordance with a framework where you're actually thinking through, the process that you're doing around judgments. So the critical thinking skills that go along with the technical skills that you have that allow you to apply the technical skills that you have in the best way. It allows you to analyze data better. It allows you to think through things. Also, I think it's critically important that you focus on learning about communication skills and getting better and better at that, because the importance of technology and using technology is then communicating to your clients and to those you work with what's the outcome of the technology, what's the output, what is the technology telling us, and how can we benefit from what we learn through the technology. And being able to deliver that in an appropriate way is I think, important. Another one is building consensus to me. So understanding how to bring ideas and then share ideas and get everybody's thoughts together and reach the best conclusion. So it's a combination of bringing all of that judgment area together along with your communication skills, and bringing those into the leadership that you bring into your firm and into your clients and your even your volunteer work, frankly.
Yeah, for me, that's great, Tracy. But and for me, it's all of those. But I always talk about communication. When college students come to me and say, what should I take? I tell them to take anything that teaches them to read, write, or speak in public. Because you could be the best accountant in the world if you can't communicate what you've done to someone else, or you can't be a good mentor, then it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. So practice with professional curiosity. Always ask the why, not just the how, and communicate, and take anything that will help you be a better communicator. And I always like to add, please learn how to run a meeting. Get better at your meeting management skills. Tracy and I have sat through, and I'm sure you have too, hundreds and hundreds of meetings, and learning how to run a good meeting so that not only does it start on time and end on time, but you get the most out of everyone. That's part of communication as well. But you'll be in a lot of meetings in your life with staff and with clients. So get better at that.
I
That's so
love that.
true.
Go ahead. You were going to say, Tracy?
No, I just said that's so true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I want to say that in addition to that, it's all true what both of you said. So, but this is also the first time I'm hearing this spin about knowing how to run a good meeting. And I think that's so true and so critical. We look at the other things like communication, team building, and collaborative skills and all of that, but also definitely knowing how to run a good meeting, being able to stay true to time and making good use of everyone's time. Those are all very, very important skills. Talking about skills and time, let's talk about people. Tracy, I know you, maybe you can share with us how you have a Filipino heritage, how that has shaped your advocacy for diversity in the profession, which I know is something that you're very passionate about. And then maybe tell us, what changes, if any, would you like to see in our profession regarding, representation and inclusivity?
Well, I think it's a business imperative for us. It's been a business imperative for firms for many years, but as a profession as a whole, we really need to continue to broaden our reach, right? We need to continue to reflect who our clients are. We need to reflect who our society is. We really have to do all of those things, right? And back in the day when I started, one of the bigger challenges was there were no women role models at that time. That has changed, although it's not where it should be, frankly, right? But coming out, I grew up in a Filipino household. My father was Filipino, my mother was Caucasian, was American, and he adopted me, which is why I don't look Filipino. I was going to go there first when they got married, and so having some sensitivity for cultural differences as a whole, as where we are in the U.S., because the U.S. is a melting pot of all different kinds of cultures, and really continuing to be sensitive as a profession to the fact that we haven't been as good at bringing in, African American and Asian and Latinx professionals is really something that, as we have looked back, we need to learn from the initiatives that we've undertaken for bringing more women into our profession, because those have been pretty successful over the years. They're not, perfect. That's okay. We can't all be perfect, but we need to continue to be more inclusive, recognize the opportunities, and recognize that there are that bringing stars and bringing high achievers come from all walks of life and come from all socioeconomic backgrounds, as well as all cultural backgrounds. So it's key for us to continue to do that as a profession.
Yeah, I agree. Bill, do you have any thoughts on this, like inclusivity and in the profession and increasing, the the variety, the number of the representation in the profession.
Yeah, it's critically important, and I was thrilled to say in my role as chair of the nominating committee, when you look at what are now the 6 senior leaders of AICPA and SEMA, it is the most diverse leadership we have had, and it didn't happen by accident. We worked at it. It will probably never happen again. To Tracy's point, it's not always easy to put people in positions, put the right people in positions. I've learned a lot about diversity from the great people I've had an opportunity to volunteer with, like you and Tracy and Kimberly. Let's face it, I grew up in Rhode Island, in the northeast corner of this country. Diversity is not something that I grew up with, but in my volunteer role, it was something that became very, very important to me. And I've always championed females. My former partner in my small firm was only the 2nd female partner in the state of Rhode Island when we made her a partner. And we made her a partner when she was pregnant with twins. So I've always championed women, and diversity is going to be very important, but it's not always easy. And firms just need to keep that in sight for their goals, and recognize the fact that sometimes you won't get it where you need it, but other times you will.
Yeah, it's not always easy. And like you said, right now the top leadership in AICP and SEMA, it's very diverse. I would add to that, and it's also very diverse and very qualified, right? Nobody
Yes.
nobody gets to any of these places if they don't deserve to be there. Nobody's going to nominate or appoint someone who is underqualified for a position of leadership if they've not, if they're not going to be able to do the work.
Correct. No, there are no imposters there.
No, our profession is too important to really look at it any other way. There are plenty of qualified people of all different backgrounds in our profession. And I'd love to make a point for anybody that is feeling like they would love to be a part of the volunteer work in the profession. Reach out to one of us. We're still connected. We do a lot of work to get volunteers into different places. And if you don't know people, that's okay. Just, figure out, who you've seen or heard that has a passion for this, and reach out, and we can do what we can to help actually do the broadening in that way, because it really is sometimes about, learning where people are, right? And finding people. And so having more people really reach out and want to be part of the profession and the volunteer leadership of the profession is great. Also, if you know people who are wanting to become CPAs, have them look at the AICPA Foundation and at This Way to CPA. Great stuff out there that's available for those who are trying to make this a career. This profession is awesome.
Yeah, I know you're president, the current president of the AICPA Foundation. Thank you for your service there. And thank you to both of you. I know you're both past past chairs rather of the AICPA. So could you maybe speak to one or two things that you're proud of or that you accomplished? I know you both individually accomplished a lot, but maybe share with us one or two top things that you're most proud of. And you've already spoken about your passion for volunteering, and just share some thoughts on that. Tracy, you want to finish that thought on your tenure, and then we'll go to Bill?
So in the volunteer world, I am happy to say that I started volunteering after my service at the Securities and Exchange Commission. So got involved with the AICPA that long ago now, which leads me to, like, I don't know, 25 or 30 years, which is really weird. But it's a long time. It's great. And it really is, something to be proud of, because as you help, think of it this way. I'm thankfully the only chair that was all fully virtual my entire year as chair of the AICPA and of the association. But we had a lot to do during that time period. We had more meetings than we've ever had in terms of the numbers. and more important things to discuss to help our profession to keep moving forward and to keep being the support of the economy that it needs to be during that time period. And so I'm really happy that I had that opportunity, even though I may have missed out on some of the travel and meeting people in the field directly. These kinds of venues that we're doing today are awesome for that as well. So I thank you for inviting me today, Arume.
Yeah, thank you. And you guys you did a lot during your tenure. You guys, all of the tools and resources that you shared with us, got us through COVID, gave us the tools and resources that we needed to be able to service our clients. So it was just a lot. And Bill, you succeeded, Tracy, right?
I did. I did. It was my honor. Tracy and I got very close. All the chairs get very, very close. It's an awesome position, and I don't think there's not a single other thing that I've done that has advanced my career more than being a volunteer. I mean, if you just think about the people that I get to sit with on my left and on my right, it would be a who's who of the profession, and you get to learn so much and really meet people you would never meet in real life. Never. Tracy and I would have never met in real life were it not for our volunteer work. And between the two of us, we now have friends not only all over the country but all over the world, and it's just an incredible experience. I was 26 straight years of volunteering. I was chair of PCPS, which I loved, and all along the way, I always thought all of those were going to be capstones. Chair of PCPS, capstone. Being asked to be on the board, capstone. Wow, this is great. And then getting the nod to be chair was amazing. So literally the best thing I've ever done in the profession is be a volunteer, state and nationally.
Great. Thanks for sharing that. So anyone, if you're hesitating and you think it's too much work, yes, you have to put in a little bit of work. I always say to folks, don't volunteer for a position if you're not going to show. If you just want to put it on your resume, that's a no-no. You want to show up, put your name out there, and then do the work. So let's get to know before we're coming up to the top of the hour. Before we do that, let's know a little bit about you, both of you personally. So I know, Tracy, that you love collecting wine. So maybe you could share with us a story about an interesting wine that you have in your collection, if you don't mind.
So I will do that, Arume. I will say that I decided at one point to become an investor in a winery. And so have some favorites there. The best thing that happened there was they brought out, it's Hall wines. And the best thing there was they brought out a Pinot Noir line that I love. And so the Walt Pinot Noirs, if you are a Pinot Noir fan, are worth trying because they're delicious. And I try to make it a point to try new wines every year and not just drink the same ones that I have. But my very favorite, in case you're wanting to know, is Chateau St. Jean, which is a California winery, Cpas, which is one of their blends.
Wow, Chateau St. Jean.
Yeah.
I will try one of these days when I'm in a nice restaurant, fancy restaurant, maybe pick one up and try it so I can say, I've had a wine that was in Tracy's collection. So, Bill, I know, but when I read somewhere about you that you met your wife, I think she was in drama. She was in part of the drama class or drama club, and you were a member of the choir. So I was wondering if you would sing a chorus for us. And if you don't want to sing, I know your family comes from, you spoke at the beginning of this about your family life being in the restaurant business. Maybe share a quick, there's no such thing as a quick recipe, but maybe share with us one of your favorites. What's your favorite Italian dish?
Well, I definitely won't sing for you. My wife is the professional singer. Yes, we met in high school on stage doing Gilbert and Sullivan. And of course, she was the soprano diva and still is the soprano diva. And I was just there because, honestly, that's where all the girls were.
I should have known.
I just showed up to be in the choir, and it was great fun. The rest of the cooking was in my blood, I guess. I didn't know it at the time, but I do love to cook. One of my favorite things to do is just to make something out of nothing. And a lot when we were traveling, and Tracy knows this, your hours are crazy, your diet is crazy. And when we came home, every time we came home from a trip, it was my job to cook up something that we could eat right then and there. So it's really just opening the closet, seeing what we have, and putting something together that's delicious.
Awesome. All right. So let's do a fast, we'll end up with this fast round robin. This is a spin on, I used to be an actress and I used to watch a lot of Bravo TV. And there was this interviewer called James Lipton. And he had a bunch of questions he used to ask his guests. So Mike is, what is your favorite word? Tracy?
Love.
Bill?
I don't know, Arumi.
You don't have a favorite word?
All right, we'll go with food.
Food. Okay. I love yes, but sometimes it's no. I love yes because I'm like, I don't ever want to say no to something, or maybe. I don't know. It changes depending on my mood. What is your least favorite word?
That's a tough one.
Yeah, that's a tough
I don't
one.
like to say that one in
Yeah.
public.
I'll just say anything negative. How's that? Anything negative.
All right.
I agree with that.
That's good. We'll take that. What was the last movie you saw?
I just watched it last night. I watched Murder Mystery 2.
Who was in it?
Adam Sandler and Jennifer Aniston. Very funny.
That's one. Bill?
We just went and saw the new Indiana Jones movie. It's a classic. If you love Indy, it's a good one.
Nice. I'll have to take time out to go see it. I haven't seen it. The last movie I saw was on a plane. Was an airplane movie, and it was about Aretha Franklin movie. That's Jennifer Hudson actress. You can tell I haven't seen any movies in a while because that came out a while ago. What about the last book that you read?
Oh boy, mine is anything by any of the thriller writers. So I read all summer long, and I read the thrillers that are, David Baldacci, Steve Berry, Vince Flynn, who writes with or has a new writer that writes for him because he's obviously passed. All of those are great for me.
Yeah, okay. I'm the same as Tracy. It's summer reading. It's thrillers and spy thrillers that I can read on the beach.
Awesome. I just finished reading an autobiography by one of my uncles. Is in Nigeria, and he wrote about his heritage. It's really interesting. You think you know people and you know where you're from and all of that stuff, but it's interesting when you read from an older person's perspective and how life was back in whatever he grew up in the 50s and 60s, and life today, and they have a lot of wisdom. There were lots of nice juicy wisdom tidbits in the autobiography. So, and let me end with this. What profession other than your own would you have liked to, if you could not have been an accountant and a CPA? What other profession would you have liked to have done in life? Tracy?
Go ahead, Tracy.
How about a high-end hotel concierge?
Woo! Love that.
Yeah. I would say something in photography.
Oh, photography. That's a nice one. Yeah. And like I said, I love acting, so maybe that's what I would have been journalism, because I love to write as well. So those two things. So before we wrap up, any final thoughts that you would like to share with our audience member? Any final piece of advice that you'd like to share with our members, with our audience members?
Tracy?
So enjoy your career. Love your profession, do what you love, and love what you do all the time. So that would be mine.
Yeah. Thank you for saying that. Go ahead, Bill.
Yeah, I'm pretty much the same. Remind yourself often that you're in an awesome profession with incredible opportunity and responsibility, and go out and spread the word. And if everybody out there just goes and recruits just one, into the profession. We won't talk about pipeline anymore.
I agree. I agree with everything that you've said. So with that, this wraps up our fireside chat. Please let me know if there is a CPA that you would like to hear from in the future episode, and I will work on making it happen. I want to say thank you to our guests, Tracy Golden and Bill Piroli. Until next time, have a fabulous day, everyone. Cheers.
Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.